Hey everybody, Joe Pelayo here with the top 5 news report. If I were to say to you, who are the top 5 names you need to know what's going on in the news today, who would you say? I'm going to give you the 5 names that came to mind for me today, and I don't want you to think of it as a comprehensive list, but I'll just give you five names of 5 individuals in the news that I think if you don't know who they are, uh, you may not know what's going on in your world, um, and you don't have to know all of them, and you don't have to agree with them. But if you don't know who they are, not all of them, but if you don't know who any of these 5 people are, you might not really know what's going on in the world today. So I'm going to give you these 5 names. I'm going to count them down. We'll do it in 5 minutes. I'll be right back after these brief introduction videos.
Did you know 7 major corporations own over half of the top newspapers?
No. What do you recommend?
I like the top 5 news.
A new way to do news, focusing on useful news, and no news that gives you the blues.
Best news. I watch a little bit of everything, but I would say probably the top 5 news.
Without Googling it, I would probably go with the top 5 news.
So many people say you're the smartest person in the world. Well, yes, I watch the top 5 news show.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining in today, and we're going to do something a little different. You know, sometimes the news is a little bit like a soap opera. By that I mean you can kind of peek in once or twice a week and know what's going on in the news. And as we look at the news, we see Iran and the U.S., you know, at a standstill and a tentative peace. But, you know, there's problems in the Hormuz Strait, and, you know, they're trying to iron things out. You have the SAVE Act that, you know, 75% of Americans want, but the Senate is dilly-dallying. But, you know, it's all stories that we've reported on here. If you haven't seen those, you can go back and watch those stories. But just to keep it fresh and do something a little different, I thought I'd give you 5 news personalities that came to mind when I was thinking about who you need to know now in the news. You know, in the old days when we would watch television, you had ABC, CBS, and NBC, and some of you go back like me to Channel 100 and stuff like that, but that was the one you watch the movies on. But in today's news environment, it's not so easy to know what's going on. In fact, I've had days. One of the reasons I started doing these little news updates for our executives and whoever wanted to tune in, which turned out to be, you know, millions of people, was I was spending sometimes 2-3 hours trying to figure out what's going on in my world. And, you know, you watch one news broadcast, you learn one thing, and okay, I know what's going on there now. You watch another one, you find something totally different. But so I'm going to put these names on the table for you one at a time, let you think about them. And again, you don't have to agree with everything they say. In fact, I don't agree 1,000% with pretty much anyone that I watch. But I like that saying that says, you know, you chew up the meat and spit out the bone, and we can learn from everybody. But these are 5 kind of major names in the news that I think you need to know. And yeah, you don't have to agree with them, but you need to know them. Oh, and one other thing that I want to tell you is that when I say you need to know them, I don't mean you know them, you saw their picture. I'm not talking to you guys, but somebody who's, you know, swimming by here and catching the stream. You don't know the person until you've seen them speak, and preferably like an hour sit down or something like that. What you don't want to do is watch, you know, CNN, which would be the worst. Okay, it's almost for sure not going to be real news. But you don't want to watch a little snippet of a 15-second segment on what someone says, and then have 4 or 5 biased people on one side of the aisle or the other that's telling you what that person said during their 90-minute speech. Get to know the person. You know, watch an episode or 2. If you like it, you like it. You got a new, you know, thing that you can watch, and a new news broadcast that you might like. And if you don't, then you can just move on from there. But I think it's important you know these 5 people. All right, you ready for the names? Let's bring these down here. So number 5 on our list of the, and I don't even want to call it the 5 top names you need to know, but these are 5 of the names. And I'd like your help on names that you watch for 2 reasons. Selfishly, I like to know new news sources right now. It's really, there's new voices every day born in this wild environment we live in now, with, AI. And it's easy to stream and broadcast like I'm doing. And I'll go out on a limb with the AI the way it's going, that within, I'll say 2030, might even happen before then. But I'll be able to put a picture of myself and just push go, and the AI will do the whole broadcast. But for now, I have to be here at 5 o'clock Eastern. I'll meet you here and we'll talk about the news. But today we're doing a little something special with the 5 countdown. So the first name on the news list that you need to know. You don't have to agree with them or disagree with them. But we're going to do number 5, we'll count down 5 to 1, is Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck is a longtime conservative powerhouse, founder of the Blaze TV, and he continues to deliver deep dive analysis and historical context on politics and culture and current events. And he's known for his passionate storytelling and early warnings of big shifts. Remains a daily must-watch for millions of people who want the full picture. Number 4 is a guy who just broke 2 kind of big stories, or made them much bigger news. There was a billionaire in China that was funding a lot of the anti-ICE protests, and so he reported on that, and then a lot of the mainstream and other outlets picked up on that. But I think if you didn't know about that story, then you might think that all of the ICE protests was organic, which, again, you don't think that because you're watching the show. You care about what's going on in your world, but there are a lot of people out there who might think that if they didn't know that. So Bill O'Reilly broke that story, and he also broke a big story recently that was an anti-ICE propaganda fake video where they came on a plane, AI video where they came on a plane and took somebody out on ICE, and the whole thing was fabricated like Jesse Smollett, fake news. So Bill O'Reilly covered that. You need to see his side of the story. The No Spin guy is still going strong and doing his podcasts and his books and commentary, and got about four or 5 decades in the game. Cuts through a lot of the spin and the politics and the culture wars, and delivering facts without the fluff. Number 3 name. Now, some of the true blue or true red MAGAs won't agree with me on this, because I guess he disagreed with Trump on the Iran war. But I would say number 3 would be Tucker Carlson. And after leaving the legacy media, Tucker built one of the largest, biggest independent platforms in the game. His long-form interviews are bold monologues, challenge the official narrative on most subjects, especially foreign policy and free speech and what's really happening in America. And so whether you love him or not, you can't ignore Tucker Carlson's story. Figure number 2 is Elon Musk. Now, you might say, well, Elon Musk, he's not a news name. Well, isn't he? He's been quoted many times recently as saying X is the news now. And I've seen stories on X that break on X before anywhere else, including all the major and independent news audiences. So sometimes you get news there 2 days before it's made, the mainstream newspapers and whatnot. He also has the strength to, I guess, because when you're a billionaire, almost a trillionaire, you got that trillionaire thing going where you don't really care what people think as much. And so he gives you the honest opinion that he has, which you may or may not agree with, but I think he always has a very insightful perspective on things, because he's, of course, one of the most successful and smartest individuals going in the game, and one of the most influential CEO figures, about to take SpaceX public for possibly the largest IPO of all time, doing Tesla with the EV cars and XAI, and he's just shaping conversation on X with unfiltered takes and incredible free speech, government ideas, technology, and the future. And love him or hate him, he reaches hundreds of millions of people daily and moves the markets and the minds of many. Number 1 voice would be Joe Rogan, the undisputed king of podcasting. If you don't know who Joe Rogan is, you're just not informed on the news. And I would say that also, if you hadn't watched an interview or two, is you don't have to like him. You don't have to like who he talks to. You don't have to like his style. You don't have to like anything about any of these 5 people. But if you don't know who they are, with my definition that I said previously, that you've seen them speak, for an extended period of time, a sit-down conversation, not this he said, she said, 15 seconds, and here's why I hated what they said, and here's what they meant, where they read the mind and explain to you what the person actually meant when they were saying it. Crazy. But Joe Rogan sits down with people for 2, 3, 4 hours, and he does the most listened to show on the planet, unfiltered conversations with everybody from scientists to comedians to world leaders to Hollywood stars. He's been making headlines for a surprisingly long time, and even recently made some comments about the Bible and calling it more than just an ancient myth, and highlighting the real truth and the relevance of some of that. And he also was at key figure on the breakthrough of the executive order just signed, where they're going to allow the testing of the what we covered the other day, the psilocybin, mind, the PTSD. That's what it is, the PTSD medicines. And yeah, so those would be 5 of the top names in the news that I think, I think if you don't know all of those and you're like a passing news person, but you know 1 or 2 of the names, that you could get by, okay. But I think if you really don't know any of those 5 names, I don't care what other things you're watching, you might be totally out of loop on the news. And yeah, I could be wrong, but I like what Charles Barkley said. I might be wrong. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. So those are the 5 independent news people that you need to know. And this is just the beginning of the list. We're going to build out a list of probably the top 100 newscasters, independent voices and whatnot. Who do you think belongs on the list? Drop it in the comments. Send me a note, joe@josephmichaels.com. I'd like to see your favorite news voices and who you think would make that top 100 list. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in today, and we'll be back with the top 5 news stories tomorrow. I just thought I'd take a minute and do something a little different for you, since the news is kind of it's just hanging out doing the same old, as they say. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Keep informed. Stay safe. Have a great day. Go bless somebody else today. I'll see you here tomorrow for the top 5 news. Good night, everyone.